In the heart of a bustling city, there lived a young man named Leo. With his sharp mind and creative ideas, Leo had always dreamed of making it big in the tech world. But despite his potential, he often found himself stuck in a cycle of distractions. He was a brilliant coder, yet he would waste hours scrolling through social media, gaming, or daydreaming about the future instead of working on his dreams. Leo's life was filled with grand ideas and plans, but none of them ever seemed to come to fruition. He would always tell himself, "Tomorrow is the day I start." Yet tomorrow never came. His friends noticed his frustration, but Leo couldn't figure out how to break free from the habits that kept him stuck. One evening, while sitting at his favorite cafe, Leo sighed deeply, looking out the window at the busy streets filled with people chasing their dreams. "Why am I the only one not moving forward?" he thought. As he sat there, lost in thought, a woman with a calm and confident presence walked into the cafe. Her name was Professor Ada, a retired entrepreneur who had built a thriving business from scratch. Though she was older, there was something about her that radiated wisdom. Their eyes met, and Ada smiled kindly. She could tell Leo was struggling. Little did he know this meeting would change his life forever. Leo sat in front of his laptop, staring at the blank screen. He had an idea for a new app, something that could change the way people interacted with technology. But as usual, he found himself scrolling through social media instead of working. He knew what he was doing, but the distractions felt too tempting to resist. "Hey, you've been talking about this app for months, Leo. What's stopping you from actually building it?" Leo: "I don't know, Sam. I keep thinking I need to have everything figured out before I start. It's like I'm waiting for the perfect moment." Sam, smiling wryly, "That moment doesn't exist. You keep waiting for something magical to happen, but you're missing the point. Just start small." Leo, shaking his head: "I don't think I can. Every time I try, it feels like I'm getting nowhere. I need a huge breakthrough to get things moving." Later that evening, Leo sat in his room, his mind racing with ideas but paralyzed by indecision. The clock on his wall ticked away the hours. He glanced at his phone again, scrolling mindlessly through videos and posts. "I'll start tomorrow," he muttered to himself. Though he knew deep down that tomorrow would come with the same excuses, Leo had always been a dreamer, filled with ambition, but when it came to taking action, he froze. He didn't know how to break free from the endless loop of procrastination that kept him trapped. Even when he managed to focus, it was only for a short while before something else would pull him away. He couldn't understand why he was always so distracted and frustrated with his lack of progress. Then came the fateful day when Leo ran into Professor Ada at the cafe. The rain had stopped, and the air was thick with the scent of fresh earth. Leo walked home, his thoughts consumed by the mentor's words. Every step felt lighter, as though a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He knew he had to start small, but how? What could he possibly begin with that would lead to the success he had always dreamed of? That evening, Leo decided to take a walk to clear his mind. He ventured through the city's old botanical garden, a place he had always passed by but never truly paid attention to. As he wandered deeper into the park, something caught his eye. A small grove of bamboo trees standing tall and proud, their slender trunks rising towards the sky. Leo stopped and observed them in silence. Leo, to himself, have always admired bamboo but never really understood its strength. As he stood there, lost in thought, the same mysterious voice from earlier echoed in his mind. The mentor's words came rushing back. "Success is like the bamboo tree. Small efforts may seem insignificant, but with patience and persistence, they will eventually lead to something greater than you ever imagined." Suddenly, Leo understood. The bamboo tree was the perfect metaphor for his journey. He recalled what the mentor had said. Just as the bamboo grows its roots underground for years before it shoots up into the sky, your small habits will lay the foundation for your future success. They may seem invisible at first, but with time, they will grow and flourish. With renewed clarity, Leo sat down on a nearby bench, determined to embrace the lesson from the bamboo tree. He closed his eyes and pictured the bamboo's roots spreading deep into the soil, unseen but essential, just like the small daily habits he needed to cultivate. Each action, no matter how small, was part of the process. The next day, Leo began his new habit. He decided to wake up an hour earlier each morning. It seemed like a simple task, but as the days went by, he found it difficult. Some mornings, the temptation to sleep in was overwhelming, but remembering the bamboo, Leo pushed himself to rise early, each day a small victory in his pursuit of change. The following week, Leo added another small habit, writing for just 10 minutes every morning. He didn't worry about what he was writing, he simply wrote. His thoughts poured out, unpolished and raw, but it was the act of doing it consistently that mattered. At first, Leo didn't see any dramatic results. The early mornings were still challenging, and his writing didn't feel like it was leading to anything big. But he held on to the lesson of the bamboo tree. It wasn't about immediate growth. It was about consistency. He knew that, like the bamboo, his efforts were building something deeper, something stronger. A few weeks later, as Leo sat in the park again, reflecting on his progress, he felt a familiar presence beside him. The old mentor appeared, as if summoned by his thoughts. "Leo, you were right. At first, it seemed like nothing was happening, but now I can see how the small habits are adding up. I feel more focused and less anxious. It's like I'm laying the foundation for something bigger." The mentor smiled, his eyes twinkling with pride. Mentor: "That's the secret, Leo. Success doesn't come from big dramatic efforts. It's built on the quiet, consistent actions that no one sees. Just like the bamboo, your efforts may not be visible to others in the beginning, but the roots are growing, and when the time is right, you'll see the results. Just keep watering your habits, one day at a time." Leo, I understand now. It's not about the speed or the size of the change. It's about being patient and trusting that my small efforts will lead to something greater. The bamboo didn't rush, and neither should I. The mentor nodded, his eyes filled with warmth. Mentor: "Exactly. And remember, Leo, the most important part is to stay committed to the process, even when the results aren't immediately clear. The bamboo doesn't worry about how fast it's growing. It simply focuses on growing, and so should you." Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Leo's life began to shift in ways he hadn't anticipated. His mornings became more productive, his writing flowed effortlessly, and his confidence grew. Slowly but surely, he was transforming into the person he had always hoped to be. One day, while walking through the park again, Leo noticed the bamboo grove. The trees, which had once seemed so small and fragile, now stood tall, their stalks strong and unwavering. The realization hit him. Just like the bamboo, his small habits were beginning to show their growth. Though it had been a slow and steady process, the results were undeniable. Leo smiled to himself, grateful for the mentor's wisdom and the lesson from the bamboo tree. He knew now that success wasn't about waiting for a miracle. It was about trusting in the power of small actions and being patient with the journey. As Leo continued on his path, he often returned to the bamboo grove for inspiration. The lesson he had learned from that quiet, patient tree would stay with him forever. Small habits, practiced consistently, could create monumental change. And with each passing day, Leo became a living testament to the truth that the greatest growth often comes from the smallest seeds planted with faith, persistence. As Leo embraced the wisdom of the bamboo tree, he knew that to transform his life, he needed to make small but meaningful changes every day. It wasn't enough to simply wake up earlier or write for 10 minutes. He needed a set of habits that would push him towards success and personal growth. He began to focus on the following habits, each one tailored to strengthen a different aspect of his life. Leo had always been a night owl, staying up late and struggling to get up in the mornings. But now, he saw the power of starting his day with intention. The mentor's advice to wake up an hour earlier was something Leo took to heart. An extra hour each day, that's 365 hours in a year. If I use that time wisely, imagine how much I can accomplish. At first, the mornings were tough. The bed felt like a trap, pulling him back in with its warmth and comfort. But Leo reminded himself of the bamboo, patiently growing in silence. So he resisted the temptation to snooze and slowly began to use that time to focus on self-improvement. Sometimes it was reading a book. Other times it was just meditating to clear his mind for the day ahead. Leo had always loved stories, but he hadn't thought about the power of reading books that could improve his mind. Inspired by the idea of cultivating knowledge, he decided to start reading at least 10 pages each day. 10 pages a day may not seem like much, but if I keep it up, I'll have read dozens of books by the end of the year. That's a treasure trove of knowledge waiting for me. He started reading books on personal growth, business, and even philosophy. Every time he turned the page, he felt as though his mind was expanding. His perspective shifted, and with each book he finished, he realized how much he had grown. Not just in knowledge, but in mindset. The small act of reading every day was changing him from the inside out. Before meeting the mentor, Leo had been overwhelmed by the enormity of his dreams. The weight of achieving something big seemed impossible, and so he procrastinated. But now he understood the importance of breaking down big dreams into manageable chunks. Leo, instead of focusing on the end goal, I'll set small, achievable targets. Whether it's writing 200 words a day or finishing a small project, those small wins will lead to something bigger. He started with simple daily goals: writing, exercising, or even learning a new skill. Each completed task gave him a sense of accomplishment and motivated him to push further. Leo realized that when he focused on small goals, he didn't feel the pressure of grand success. Instead, he felt the satisfaction of steady progress. Procrastination had been Leo's greatest enemy. He would constantly delay tasks, telling himself he would do them tomorrow. But with the mentor's advice, Leo began using a simple trick, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule. Leo, when I feel the urge to procrastinate, I'll count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'll get started. No hesitation, just action. This method worked wonders. By counting down, he tricked his mind into taking immediate action, bypassing the hesitation that usually kept him stuck. The rule became his superpower, allowing him to tackle tasks with confidence, whether it was studying for an exam, writing a business plan, or simply cleaning up his space. Leo had been so focused on his lack of progress in the past that he often forgot to appreciate what he already had. But the mentor had introduced him to the powerful habit of gratitude. Every night before bed, Leo took a moment to write down 3 things he was grateful for. Leo, at first it felt a little strange, but now it feels natural. Gratitude shifts my perspective. Instead of focusing on what's missing, I'm focusing on what's already good in my life. Soon, Leo noticed how much more positive and grounded he felt. His mindset shifted from frustration to appreciation, and with that shift came a new sense of inner peace. He didn't feel as overwhelmed by what he hadn't achieved yet, because he was thankful for the progress he had made, no matter how small. Physical activity had always been something Leo put off, convinced that he needed hours at the gym to see any results. But the mentor had encouraged him to start with just 10 minutes of exercise each day. If 10 minutes is all I can spare, then 10 minutes it is. A small commitment every day will add up in the long run. He began with a simple routine: stretching, body weight exercises, and a quick jog around the block. It wasn't much, but Leo felt a surge of energy and clarity after each session. As the days went on, his body became stronger and his mind sharper. The small habit of exercising for 10 minutes a day became the foundation of his physical and mental vitality. Leo had spent countless hours scrolling through social media, wasting time on things that didn't contribute to his growth. He realized that if he wanted to create something meaningful, he had to take control of his time. Instead of scrolling aimlessly, I'll ask myself, is this helping me grow, or is it just a distraction? He set boundaries for himself, limiting screen time to just an hour a day. In the time he freed up, he focused on his small habits: writing, reading, and exercising. His life began to feel more intentional, and the distractions that once dominated his time lost their grip on him. Over time, Leo could see the subtle transformation. The changes weren't dramatic, but they were real. His focus improved, his energy increased, and his mind became sharper. The small habits were quietly working behind the scenes, laying the foundation for something much greater. The bamboo didn't grow overnight, and neither did I. But every small habit is a step toward the person I want to become, and in time they'll lead me to the life I've always dreamed of. Each of these small habits, when practiced consistently, gave Leo a sense of control over his life. Slowly, he realized that the road to success didn't need to be paved with grand gestures. It was built from daily actions, done with patience and perseverance, just like the bamboo that grew quietly yet powerfully. For the first few weeks, Leo was energized. He woke up early, tackled his small goals, and even found himself enjoying his newfound habits. But as the days turned into months, the reality of change began to settle in. His initial excitement began to fade, and Leo found himself facing struggles and setbacks. It was a cold, rainy Monday morning when Leo's alarm clock rang. He had barely slept the night before, overwhelmed by the pressure of a big presentation at work. The comfort of his warm bed seemed too inviting, and the thought of getting up and facing the day was the last thing on his mind. Just 5 more minutes, that's all I need. He pressed snooze and drifted back into slumber. The hour he had promised himself to wake up early was now gone. The day was already starting with a failure. Leo felt the weight of his own disappointment. Later that morning, as he rushed to get ready, Leo thought back to the bamboo tree. He remembered how it had waited for years to grow, silently and steadily. He tried to brush off his frustration and remind himself that even the smallest setbacks were part of the process. Still, the struggle with his mornings wasn't something that could be ignored. Another obstacle appeared when Leo sat down to write. His goal of writing 200 words a day was something he had kept up for several weeks, but now he sat at his desk staring at the blank screen. No words came. The pressure of the task felt too heavy, and his mind went blank. Leo, I've got nothing to say today. Maybe I'll just skip it. He tried to push through, but the words didn't flow. The task that once felt like a small accomplishment now felt like an overwhelming mountain. He thought about giving up, telling himself it wasn't worth it, but he remembered the bamboo tree again. He knew that just like the tree's roots grew silently underground, his words, no matter how small, were also laying the foundation for something bigger. Leo, I've been here before. If I give up now, I'll never see the growth. Just write 1 sentence. That's all. 1 sentence is enough to keep going. And so Leo wrote. Slowly, 1 sentence turned into a paragraph, the block lifted, and he completed his daily writing. It wasn't perfect, but it was done. The small act of continuing, despite the setback, was what mattered. On another occasion, Leo found himself sitting down to work on his goals, only to be bombarded by distractions. His phone kept buzzing with notifications, his mind wandered to thoughts of his friends' social media posts, and his attention was pulled in 1,000 directions. Doing. Just 1 quick check won't hurt, right? What started as a quick glance at his phone turned into an hour of scrolling through mindless content. When he finally put his phone down, he realized how much time had slipped away. His focus had been shattered, and his sense of productivity evaporated. He sighed deeply, feeling the familiar frustration creeping in. But once again, he called on the wisdom of the bamboo tree. He remembered that even when distractions had taken over, he could still regroup and keep moving forward. And I can't let this one moment define my entire day. I'll make a small habit out of limiting my phone time. Tomorrow, I'll be better. He set a timer for 30 minutes of focused work, free of distractions. It wasn't perfect, but Leo learned to adjust and continue. One of the hardest periods came when Leo hit what he now called his dark days. These were the days when his motivation seemed to vanish completely. It wasn't just the morning struggles or the writing blocks. It was a feeling of complete exhaustion and discouragement. The progress he had made seemed to disappear, and the success he dreamed of felt distant and unattainable. One evening, Leo sat on the couch, overwhelmed by the thought of all the things he still hadn't achieved. He felt like he was failing, like nothing was working. Leo, I'm not sure I can keep doing this. I thought the small habits would work, but nothing's changing. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. His self-doubt crept in, and for a moment he considered giving up. He thought about quitting the habits and returning to the comfortable routine he had known before. But then, Leo remembered something important. The bamboo tree again. He closed his eyes and pictured the bamboo roots, growing deep beneath the surface. The growth wasn't visible, but it was happening all the same. He realized that even though he couldn't see the immediate results, his efforts were still working. Leo, this is just part of the process. The roots take time to grow. I can't give up now. I've come too far. And with that, Leo found the strength to keep going. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but Leo started noticing small changes again. He began waking up early with more consistency, his writing started to flow more naturally, and he found it easier to focus. His body felt stronger, and his mind felt clearer. The setbacks were still there, but now Leo didn't see them as failures. Instead, he saw them as a natural part of the journey. Every struggle, every moment of doubt, was simply a reminder that growth wasn't linear. It took time, patience, and persistence. One day, as Leo stood in front of a mirror, he realized how much he had changed. His habits were no longer a struggle, but a part of who he was. He had transformed, not because of any grand gestures or shortcuts, but because he had stayed committed to the process, even when things were tough. Leo, smiling, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And even on the hard days, I'll keep moving forward, just like the bamboo. Leo had learned that success wasn't about avoiding setbacks, it was about how you responded to them. And as he moved forward, he knew he had the resilience to overcome anything that came his way. Leo had been diligently following his small habits for months, with many ups and downs along the way. While his progress had been steady, it often felt slow. He still had moments of doubt, moments when the results didn't seem to match his efforts. But little did Leo know, his consistency was laying the groundwork for an unexpected breakthrough. It was one of those typical mornings when Leo woke up earlier than usual, ready to face another day of habits, writing, reading, exercising, and limiting distractions. It was nothing extraordinary, just a regular day in his routine. But as he went through the motions, something felt different. Leo, this doesn't feel as hard as it used to. I'm getting used to this. The small victories were no longer isolated moments. They had become part of who he was. His mind no longer resisted the early wake-up call. His body was craving the 10-minute workout. The books he read no longer felt like chores, but exciting new pathways to knowledge. Leo had begun to feel a sense of control in his life, a sense that the chaos of his previous habits had been replaced by an underlying calm. His once scattered thoughts were now focused and determined. What he hadn't realized was that all this quiet progress was adding up to something significant. One day, as Leo sat down to write his daily 200 words, something incredible happened. The words came easily. In fact, they poured out of him in a way they never had before. He didn't need to force himself. The ideas flowed with clarity and purpose. The 200 words turned into 500, and the 500 turned into 1,000. It was as though the mental block he had been struggling with for months had suddenly disappeared. Leo, I just wrote an entire chapter in one sitting. This has never happened before. For the first time, Leo realized that he was no longer struggling to write. The habit of writing daily had worked its magic, and he had unlocked a level of creativity and flow he hadn't known he was capable of. The bamboo tree didn't grow overnight, but in that moment, Leo could feel the years of growth beneath the surface coming to fruition. A week after this breakthrough, Leo's phone buzzed with an unexpected message. It was an email from a publisher he had once considered a long shot. He had submitted his writing to them months ago, almost forgetting about it. The email read, "Dear Leo, we've read your submission and we are incredibly impressed by your work. We believe it has great potential and we would love to offer you a publishing deal." Leo's heart raced as he read the words over and over again. It was real. The breakthrough he had been waiting for had finally arrived. It wasn't some massive, dramatic change that happened overnight. It was the accumulation of all the small efforts he had put in, day after day. Leo, stunned. This is it. All the small habits, all the setbacks, they led to this. It's happening. As Leo signed the publishing contract, he reflected on his journey. The transformation wasn't just about the success he had now achieved. It was about the person he had become. The setbacks, the struggles, and the doubts, they had all taught him something invaluable. Success, Leo realized, was never about big moments or instant rewards. It was about the steady, consistent actions that compounded over time, even when it didn't feel like anything was changing. Every small habit had planted a seed, and now, after all the time, patience, and perseverance, that seed had grown into something remarkable. The bamboo doesn't grow fast, but when it does, it's unstoppable, just like me. Leo's breakthrough was just the beginning of a new chapter in his life. With the publishing deal secured, he had an even greater sense of purpose, but more importantly, he had learned the most valuable lesson of all. Success isn't found in the big, dramatic moments. It's in the small daily actions that, over time, add up to something incredible. Leo knew there would be more challenges ahead, but he was no longer afraid of them. He had the tools, the mindset, and the habits to navigate whatever came his way. Just like the bamboo tree, he was ready to continue growing, stronger, taller, and more resilient than ever before. With the publishing deal in hand, Leo's life began to change in ways he never expected. But the transformation wasn't just about the external success. What mattered most was the growth he had undergone internally. The small habits that he had nurtured over the months had prepared him for this very moment. As the days went on, new opportunities seemed to unfold naturally, each one a direct result of his persistent effort. Leo's approach to his work had shifted dramatically. Before, he would have been consumed by anxiety and fear of failure, but now he faced every new project with a sense of calm determination. The habits he had cultivated, waking up early, writing consistently, reading, exercising, were no longer just actions to get through. They had become a foundation upon which Leo could build his future. One morning, after finishing his morning routine, Leo sat down at his desk with a clear mind, ready to tackle his new book project. He smiled to himself as he thought about how far he had come. Leo, if I had waited for the perfect moment, this wouldn't have happened. It was the small steps, the daily habits that led to this. I can do anything now. Leo began to write his next book with a new sense of purpose. It wasn't just another task. It was a mission, a chance to share what he had learned with others. His confidence grew with each page he wrote. As his book began to take shape, Leo's network of connections started to expand. He received invitations to speaking events, podcasts, and interviews. His disciplined approach to his habits not only transformed his own life, but also inspired others. People began reaching out to him for advice on how to build small, sustainable habits that could change their own lives. One afternoon, Leo received a call from a popular podcast host. Hey Leo, we've heard about your book and your journey. We'd love to have you on our show to talk about how small habits led to your success. Are you up for it? Leo, excited. I'd love to share my story. As Leo prepared for the interview, he realized how much he had grown. The old Leo would have been nervous and doubted his ability to speak in front of an audience. But now, thanks to the habits he had built, he felt grounded and confident. During the interview, Leo shared his experiences with the listeners, offering actionable advice on how to make small, impactful changes in their daily lives. Leo, on the podcast, you don't need to wait for some big dramatic change to begin. Start with one small habit. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Write 100 words a day. Gradually, you'll see the transformation. The podcast episode went viral, and soon, Leo was being approached by more influential figures, eager to collaborate with him. As Leo's influence grew, so did his opportunities. One day, he received an unexpected email from an online course platform. Email: Dear Leo, we've heard incredible things about your work and the habits that led to your success. We'd love for you to create an online course on personal development and habits. Your story is one that can inspire so many people. At first, Leo hesitated. Creating an online course was a huge commitment. But then he remembered the bamboo tree. Its roots had taken years to develop, but it had finally reached its towering potential. Just like the bamboo, Leo knew that his success was the result of steady, deliberate growth. After careful consideration, Leo agreed to create the course. He poured his knowledge, experience, and lessons learned into the content. The course quickly became a hit, helping thousands of people build the habits that would change their lives. As Leo continued to grow his brand and work on new projects, He realized that his story was having a ripple effect on others. He received messages from people around the world who had been inspired by his journey. They shared how they had started small habits and had already begun to see results. Message from a reader: Leo, your book changed my life. I've started waking up early and reading just 10 pages every day, and I already feel more in control of my life. Thank you for sharing your story. The impact of his work was becoming more evident. Leo was no longer just a man with a dream. He was a symbol of what was possible when you committed to small, consistent actions. And his journey had only just begun. One evening, as Leo sat on the balcony of his apartment, looking out at the city skyline, he took a moment to reflect. A few years ago, he had been a person lost in procrastination and self-doubt. But now, he was living a life he had only dreamed of. A life built on small habits that had compounded into extraordinary change. It's incredible. I used to think success was this far-off thing, something that would happen to other people. But now I see that it's a result of the choices I make every day. The small steps I took built the life I have now. As he gazed out at the night sky, Leo felt a deep sense of peace. He knew that there would be more challenges ahead, but he was ready. The bamboo tree had taught him patience, resilience, and the power of consistency. And as Leo continued on his journey, he understood that the best was yet to come. Each new opportunity was a result of the habits he had built, and with every new day, Leo was ready to grow even further. After months of growth, new opportunities, and breakthroughs, Leo found himself at a crossroads. He had accomplished so much already. His book was published, his course was a success, and he had made a positive impact on countless people. Yet, there was still something missing, a deeper understanding of why all of this had come to pass. One evening, as Leo sat in his favorite park, watching the sunset, he found himself reflecting on his journey. The small habits, the setbacks, the relentless pursuit of personal growth. What had it all meant? He thought back to the words of Mr. Anil, his mysterious mentor, and the lesson about the bamboo tree. Leo, musing to himself, it's about waiting for one big moment. It's about the small moments, the daily choices. The bamboo takes time to grow, but when it does, it's unstoppable. But as Leo sat quietly, a deeper realization washed over him. The bamboo tree hadn't just been about growth in the external sense. It was also about transformation within. It wasn't just the success he had achieved. It was the person he had become. The most significant lesson wasn't the tangible rewards, but the change in his mindset and heart. Leo closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He thought about how far he had come. There was a time when he had believed success was about quick fixes, about waiting for the perfect moment. But now he understood that the real key to success wasn't external at all. It was about the internal shifts, the way he viewed time, effort, and himself. The bamboo tree didn't just grow tall because of its strong roots. It grew tall because it had been nurtured over time with patience, faith, and consistency. But what the bamboo didn't show was the way the roots deepened beneath the soil. Quietly, steadily, without anyone noticing. At Leo, smiling to himself, it's the foundation you build, the person you become in the process. A few weeks later, Leo received an invitation to give a keynote speech at an international conference on personal development. As he prepared for the speech, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. This was the culmination of his journey, not because of the stage or the audience, but because of what he had learned. On the day of the speech, Leo stood at the podium in front of a packed room. He looked out at the crowd, feeling a deep connection to each person. They were all on their own journeys, seeking change, improvement, and success. And as he began to speak, he shared the lesson that had become his life's truth. Leo, speaking to the crowd, we often think success is about grand gestures or big opportunities, but the truth is, success is built through the small, everyday choices we make. It's in waking up early, reading a little every day, setting small goals, and showing up even when it's hard. Success is about developing the right habits, the right mindset, and the right heart. Just like the bamboo tree, your growth might not be visible at first, but over time you'll realize how far you've come. The room was silent as Leo's words sunk in. For a moment, he could see the impact of his message on the faces of the audience. They were inspired, moved, and eager to start their own journeys toward change. Leo's journey had come full circle. He had gone from a young man lost in self-doubt and procrastination to someone who had mastered the art of small habits and achieved remarkable success. But the final lesson was clear. True success wasn't just about the results. It was about the transformation that happened along the way. As Leo wrapped up his speech, he looked out at the crowd once more. He could see the spark of possibility in their eyes, the same spark that had once ignited within him. Leo, I've learned that true success isn't measured by what you achieve. It's about who you become. And that, I believe, is the greatest reward. With a deep sense of fulfillment, Leo left the stage. His journey was far from over, but he knew that no matter where life took him, the lessons he had learned would continue to guide him. Because, just like the bamboo tree, his growth was unstoppable, rooted in the small, consistent habits that had shaped him into the person he was today. Leo's final lesson was clear. Success, fulfillment, and growth are not defined by the external achievements or the big moments, but by the small, daily actions that transform us from within. The bamboo tree, after all, had its roots deep in the earth long before it reached the sky. And just like that, Leo's growth would continue, steady and unstoppable. Don't forget to subscribe to Golden Life Map so you won't miss any inspiring and motivational stories. If you enjoyed this video, hit like to spread positive energy to more people. Share it now, and let's create a brighter life together.